What's up, everybody? Today, I would like to start off this press conference with another book. It's called The Seat of the Soul. It's a different book, a spiritual book. It was kind of funny how I came across it. Was sometimes when I'm trying to figure out what to read, I look at people that I am interested in, that I look up to, that I like their mentality, and so I Google search a list of books that Jay-Z read that was out there, and I Googled searched a list of books that Oprah read, and this book was on the same list. So I figured if Jay-Z and Oprah read it, Bobby should probably read it too. And so I read it, and it really changed my life in a positive way. I think, like I said, a lot of times people read business books and read different type of things, but I'm a very spiritual person, so I like to read spiritual books. And so this book was really inspirational because it kind of moves beyond the limitation of just the five senses and really opens your mind to your spiritual life and your spiritual world. And I thought that was pretty cool. It made me more mindful about my thinking, more mindful about my intent in all my relationships, not just football, but family. And, I think it was really about moving towards your authentic self and authentic power. So if anybody's interested in reading, or if I have a list of books out there that I don't know about, this should probably be on there. Questions for you guys?
2015, you guys were, I believe, 2-4.
I did check that. Remember after the game? Yeah.
2-4. What do you remember? I mean, I know it's
What happened that year?
I think you guys made the playoffs that year.
And then what happened?
You had the Minneapolis game, which was, then you won that one.
I couldn't remember, but I remember, like, as soon as I left the podium, I was like, nah, we've been here before.
Yeah.
Sorry, your question.
What do you remember about, I don't know, it's a long time ago, and it's a very specific point in that season, but do you remember being 2-4, and what do you remember about just getting out of that hole?
I remember being 2-4. I remember everybody on the outside saying our season was over and saying that we had no chance of being good. And I remember us just locking in and focusing. It's a very similar feeling. I feel like, when you watch the games and watch some of the things that we've done, we're very close. And I feel like it's not like we're not getting better. So, like I said, I'm very confident in the guys that we have. I'm confident that, we're just a couple plays away, a couple, minor tweaks away from being a team that I know we can be. And so we just got to lock in. There's no more room really for error for us to kind of figure these things out. We have to apply the things that we've learned over these 6 games and do what we need to do to get this season turned in the right direction, which I feel like we very confident that we could do that.
In the here and the now, what does Pete Carroll's messaging sound like at this point of the season?
I mean, obviously it's positive, but it's real as well. You can't override some of the stuff that we've done good, but also some of the stuff that we got done bad. And so we have to fix the things that we've done bad in order to produce more good. And so, the messaging has been just lock in, focus, and really, do your job, because it starts with yourself. It starts with you doing your job, and you doing your job helps the next man do his job, and so on and so forth. So if we can all be on the same page and we can all do our job and do it at a high level at the same time, like I said, I'm very confident that we can turn the season around.
Have you always been a spiritual person?
It took some time, for sure. It definitely took some time. I think I became more of a spiritual person when my mom passed, because I think that opened me up to really wanting to feel that connection, even though she wasn't here. And I think it kind of helped me in my grieving process and my growth process to understand that, this is just a body, that the soul is, eternal, is forever. And so if you can, sit down and be still longer than, take away from your phones and your computers and all that stuff and really just be still, I feel like, you can connect with a lot of, spiritual beings and souls that's been here before you.
Has that been helpful in times other than grieving the loss of your mother?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've definitely applied it a lot. That's why I think I I probably gravitated towards meditation and gravitated towards yoga because a lot of those ideas, you kind of have to be very powerful in the mind and very strong in the mind.
Bobby, have you guys turned a corner on defense in terms of communication? And was that because of changes you guys have made or just the time and the playing together?
I think it was a combination of everything. I think there was definitely, some changes that we made and definitely more awareness to over-communicate on a lot of our behalves. And I think, it all matched up with that moment. We had some big moments in that game. And, in order for us to make those plays, we have to be, on the same page and communicate. So I think it was a step in the right direction, but, it has to become consistent. And, I think there's still areas to improve with it.
When you say guys have to do their jobs, are you talking about players freelancing too much, or is it young players not knowing what their assignment is?
No, I'm talking in general, like everybody on the team. On the defense, there's 11 players. And, if we're running cover 3, cover 2, stick front, over front, under front, it doesn't matter. Every person that's on that field has a job to do on that particular play. And so as long as everybody does their job on that particular play, the play will be successful for us. So, I think sometimes we try to do too much, or sometimes we, want to make a play that, you go outside of your job, but, just reminding that, if you do your job, it's enough.
I can't remember if we asked you about this Sunday night, but the play that Tre Brown made in overtime on third down, what'd you think of that?
It was a great play. It was, a lot of confidence, and he took his shot. And, third down, we always talk about taking a shot. And, if he didn't take his shot and he didn't, do what he did, make that tackle, that guy could easily fall forward for the first down and change the whole outcome of the game. And so, for him being that young and making that play and having that confidence, it just shows how much, room he can grow and become a great player in this league.
Bobby, you mentioned the things that you've learned through 6 weeks. What are some of those things that stand out to you so far?
I think, it's very important to make sure you're on your assignments and doing your job, as well as the biggest thing is communication. I think, you have a bunch of guys that are trying to learn and play together. Communication is the most important thing. And so if one person is off, that messes up the whole thing. And so that has been the biggest thing that I feel like we've grown from and we learned from.
Alvin Kamara is a unique talent. How do you go about slowing him down?
You just try to get your body on him. He's a very special player. They move him around all over the place. They got screens for him. He runs fades from the backfield, and so you just have to be mindful of when they like to take those shots with him. Where is he at? Sometimes they put him out in empty and leave him by himself on a linebacker, and so you just got to be mindful that their game plan is going to be centered around either handing him the ball or finding a way to get him the ball in the pass game. And so if we can have eyes on him and making sure that he doesn't have a crazy game, I think that's definitely a start.
You played against Jameis Winston a couple times when he was in Tampa Bay. What growth have you seen from him now playing in that offense, being tutored by Sean Payton and obviously Drew Brees as well?
I definitely see the decision-making is definitely a growth. Obviously, there's some plays that, he still takes a chance. But, when you have a strong arm like he does, like he's going to take a chance like most quarterbacks with strong arms do. But I would say decision-making, I would say confidence in not only the offense, but feeling the confidence from the team. Sometimes, maybe he didn't have as much confidence or people didn't trust him as much. And so I think no matter what anybody says, that plays a part if the people that you play for you don't feel that trust from them. And so, I see the confidence that he has in himself, the trust that he has from that team, and his decision-making for sure has been growth.
You guys are 0-2 at home so far this year. Obviously, that's just 2 games. But how important is it to sort of get back to that home field advantage that you guys had for so long?
It's really important because, our fans are amazing, and they deserve to see us come out and win. And so, we definitely want to do our part. It's a huge advantage once we, get the game going in our favor and they get loud, they mess up the offense. And, we all work together. We all feed off one another. So, it's a huge part, and, we'll do our part this week.
After you guys went to 1-2, Pete talked about a more serious vibe in the building, sense of urgency, so to speak. Do you anticipate it being the same this week? 2-4 and what 2-5 would mean for you guys this season?
Well, I like to think positive, so 3-4 sounds a lot better than 2-5. But
The importance of 3-4.
oh, 100%. Yeah, you definitely want to win this game. Like I said, there's not much room for error. You know, the more you lose, the more you put yourself in a bigger and bigger hole to try to get out from. And you could be as positive you want, but no one really wants to go into a ditch. You know what I'm saying? They try to avoid it as much as they can. So, you know, I definitely feel like even after 1-2, the seriousness, there is still that focus. You know, but I definitely feel like we understand what's at stake. I think it's important for guys like myself, Russell, to, you know, make sure the young guys understand that we have been in this position before, and doesn't mean that, you know, just because we started 2-4 doesn't mean that has defined our season. The season is very long, and so, you know, I'm confident that, you know, after these 2 games and bye weeks, we'll be sitting in a very good position.
Do you see any parallels to the way you see the power of the mind and spirituality between the neutral thinking stuff that Russ talks about and uses in his game too?
To an extent, a lot of it is just being present in your intent. You know, but I think the power of the mind is just it's all about thought and how you talk to yourself, how you talk to other people, the things that you put out in the world. Because I truly believe that, you know, what you put out in the world is what you're going to get back. And so, you know, there's some similarities, but, you know, I like this version better.
Anything else, guys?
Actually, one more thing. With the prevalence of...
Go Lakers. Sorry.
They lost.
That's fine. It's the first game.
How
many game? 82?
81 now.
All right, we'll be fine.
Sorry, with the prevalence of like radio, TV, talking heads, writers, YouTube, podcasts, how have you dealt with the younger players and like the importance of tuning that stuff out and social media, the media, all that stuff?
Ooh, that's a very good question. I think it's hard because they pay attention way more than even I do. Like I you know, when I was in the league, like Twitter was around, Instagram was around, you know, TikTok wasn't. Snapchat came maybe like year 5, but there is so much energy and thought put into what you see on Twitter that it plays a role in your mental if you let it. And so a lot of it is just understanding that there's a lot of people at home that can't do what you're doing, but have an opinion on what you're doing. And if you let the people that can't do what you're doing have that opinion and let that opinion, you know, run your mind, you know, it could stop you from doing the thing that they can't do. And so a lot of it is just, I just tell them, like, you don't, it's harder than said and done, but, you know, you don't pay attention to it. You don't listen to it. There's people in your life that I feel like have a place in your life for a reason, and those people's opinions should matter more than the people on the internet that, you know, don't know what to say. As far as the media and all those different things, like, you know, you guys got a job to do. You got to report what you see. You got to report what you say. And so, again, it's something that you can't really respond to. You can control what you control, which is how you play the game, you know, what you do on the field, and, you know, how you conduct yourself as a person. And so, you know, I try to tell them to focus on the things they control, but I also understand that that's not as easy as it used to be when I first got here.
How did you come to that realization about Twitter?
I just stopped looking at it, to be honest, because you can have, you know, you can go and you can have this amazing game, and you can, I feel like I was literally talking about this the other day, but you can go and have this amazing game, and you can have 100 great compliments to you, and then 3 of those were negative. And no matter how amazing those 97 comments were, you'll just think about the 3 that, you know, made you feel some type of way. And so you do that over a period of time, your life goes like this. Like, you're up and down, and your emotions are either depending on what a person says about you. And if your life is dependent on what a person says about you, it's going to be a very tough life. And so I felt like I just, you know, started to ignore it, started to focus on the people's opinions that I cared about, started to do other things with my time. And, you know, as you do that, and obviously as you grow and mature, you understand what's important and what's not. And you understand this window of opportunity is so short, and you have to maximize it with, everything that you got. You don't have time to listen to people that you don't care about.
We haven't been in the locker room in 2 years, Bobby, but how prevalent is still, in the past, players will come right in after the game and they go right to their phones, and is that still something you have to tell players, just cut that out? Is that still something that goes on?
It depends though. It depends on what you do. Like if you're leaving the game and you're going straight to looking at Instagram and Twitter and all that stuff, then, I encourage you not to. But if you're going to look at, see if your loved one texts you or things like that, I feel like that's always good. You know what I mean? So I encourage. I mean, if you got loved ones that make you feel, but I encourage you to do things that make you feel good. Instagram. Again, it may make you feel good one day, but it'll make you feel terrible the next. And so if it's not something that's consistent, then I wouldn't put energy to it. Or I'll give yourself some time to just decompress and just chill. It's kind of funny. I was actually thinking about this the other day. There was one time where it was a lot going on. And I remember there were so many people coming up to me right now, and it was very kind of you to kind of say, hey, everybody, can y'all just relax, give him a second to chill and let him, before we asked him some questions. And I never forget that because I was grateful because it gave me a chance to chill, let everything that happened in the game kind of relax, get my thoughts together so I can answer you guys' questions thoughtfully and, understand what you guys are asking. So this game is a hard game physically, but it is definitely a lot harder mentally as well. So, again, you have to be present and understand what's important in your life.
Anything else, guys?
Cool.
Thanks, Bob.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.